Welcome to the Future of Film Showcase 2021, presented by CBC Gem. Thank you for joining us. My name is Eric Bizzarri. I'm the co-founder and artistic director of the Future of Film Showcase. We're here, grateful to be here with Rebeccah Love, director of Parlor Palm, featured in our 2021 program. Rebeccah, how's it going?
It's going very well. Thank you so much for having me today.
No problem. It's good to see you. It's good to connect. Thank you so much for making the time for this. So we don't have a lot of time, so I guess we'll just sort of jump into it. The reason, like, what sort of struck us about your film right away is a lot about the parallels between all of your work, and I admire your filmography because I think you have a distinct vision that's so clearly captured in each of your works. I guess I sort of wanted to talk about, and you had mentioned this as well, as the emphasis that you try to have on performance within performance and sort of the theatrical mise en scène. And I wanted to talk about sort of the parallels between Parlor Palm and your earlier work and this proscenium that you talk about in your work.
Sure. So I had my start in theater before I engaged as a filmmaker, before I held a camera in my hand. I was acting in theatrical plays. And as a kid, I was putting on a lot of plays in living rooms and in backyards. And so definitely Parlor Palm is sort of a return to that time in my life and a return to these early interests I had in performance. And my earlier films, Circles, which I wrote, but I did not direct it. Zachary Willett directed that, and then Abacus My Love, which was my thesis film at Ryerson. Both of these stories are meta-theatrical and meant to honor and celebrate the world of theater. In all of these stories, in Circles, in Abacus My Love, and in Parlor Palm, I'm trying to understand what can be revealed through performance and what can be revealed through the artifice of theater and through the magic of whatever happens in the proscenium arch. I'm especially interested right now at this time in my life in the intersection between mental illness and performance. I live with bipolar disorder, and when I was much younger, between the ages of 18 and 21, I lived with manic episodes. And looking back at that time, I could recognize that there was a performative element to the illness. So for all of these reasons, my early interest in theater and just thinking about what performance can share about a character, and then these experiences I had as a younger person when I was ill, they all kind of culminate or are brought into the story of Parlor Palm.
Mm-hmm. And so I guess if you don't mind, if you could speak about so when you were younger, have you always been creative? And then if so, did you sort of find a way to sort of discuss your trauma within your work?
Sure. So I have definitely always been very creative. I've lived with this inner intensity, this energy. It's, I think, a part of the disease that I live with. Sometimes I live with depression, but sometimes when I'm excited and I've got so much energy, and as a younger person, this would come out in creative activities, singing and dancing and acting and drawing. And so definitely all of those activities were very important to me as a young person. And then it's only now that I'm a little bit older that I'm able to address trauma through creativity and through creation. When I was first going through a lot of my challenges as a teenager and as in my early 20s, I didn't understand what I was going through. So I wasn't really in any kind of position to be able to reflect on my experience. And I think this is the reality for lots of people who are first diagnosed with any kind of disorder or disease, whether it's physical or mental health issue. when you're first diagnosed, it's a shock and you're just trying to adapt. But this is something I like telling people who come to me. Some people come to me and they say, I just got sick. This is so overwhelming. This is traumatizing. This is terrible. Like I'm scared, or I don't know what to do. And one thing I like telling these people who message me is, give it some time, and down the line you'll be able to feel more comfortable and make art based on your experience.
Thank you for sharing that. And I guess one of the more interesting things about your work as well is you containing characters in one confined space. You did this previously in Ripe as well. Can you sort of chat about what you enjoy most about contained locations? Like I feel like, is even in Parlor Palm, the environment itself, you really utilize every single part of that space, which is exciting. And the environment becomes more as a character. Can you sort of chat about your emphasis on confined spaces?
Sure. So the first thing I'd say is that from a production standpoint, I love working in one location because it really simplifies your process. You're able to, I think a lot of energy can be wasted on unit moves when you're moving from location to location. And when I'm just working in one location, all of that energy can be spent on performance and on blocking, and you're not stressing out about needing to go anywhere. So you can really just focus all of your attention on the scene at hand. There's also a quote by Blaise Pascal that I love. Let's see if I can remember it word for word. I think it goes like this: all of humanity's problems stem from mankind's inability to sit in a room alone. I think I have it. I think that's word for word, but I couldn't be missing one word.
I love it.
And I guess it just captures the beauty of limitations and the beauty of trying to make the most of your one environment, trying to make the most of your limitations, almost like in a haiku kind of a way. You're really you're forced to be really creative and to try to make the most of this one room. Working with Nikolai Mikhailov, he was brilliant in working his camera in such angles that sort of playfully explore a space, even though you're just sort of situated in one room. Mm-hmm. So that's what I would say about that.
I noticed, so Nikolai shot Parlour Palm. You had a previous person shooting Eric Rowe, who shot some of your previous work. Can you chat about how that communication, if that communication changed between your shift of collaborators, like how it was working from cinematographer to cinematographer? What was that experience like?
Sure. Well, both of those people are brilliant. They're absolutely brilliant. Working with Eric, I've worked with Eric the whole way through up until last year. So, we did our junior thesis and senior thesis films at Ryerson. And then after leaving Ryerson, Eric was really the person to introduce to me ideas of working in natural light and showing me what natural light can lend to a story. And he has a shooting style that's very fluid and very playful, and I've always enjoyed working with Eric, and he's also the kindest, like very friendly on set. And but then Eric had a shoot in the Middle East that came up all of a sudden. Eric was originally going to work on Parlor Palm, and he was away for 12 months or 6 months, or I can't remember how long. So suddenly I was in a position where I couldn't work with Eric anymore, which was a little bit frightening for me because we had always worked together. And then so I was, Nikolai studied with me at Ryerson, and I remember him, from shoots that we would have done as students. And Nikolai is very active in the sort of MDFF community, and he does a lot of work around. So I knew that he might be a good choice. And yeah, it was fascinating working with him as well. I mean, his approach was yeah, it was different. We had different types of conversations about, this was a film that required lights, so we had different kinds of conversations about what he would bring as a cinematographer. And is formalism the word I'm looking for? Like it was quite a more structured process, and the types of decisions we were making were rooted in a different type of conversation that I was having with Eric. But I think they're both wonderful, and I've learned so much from both of them, and just I feel very honored to be able to learn from both of them.
Yeah, and that question was more rooted in sort of it's just the collaboration process. Just I'm curious about sort of what your process was with both of them. But something that I noticed more so is your work with Sarah Swire. Sarah's incredible, to be quite honest with you. She's very grounded. You can tell in her eyes, she's just so genuine in her performance. And so I'm curious about the collaboration between you two, because it seems like by Parlor Palm, you guys have a very great rhythm. There's just a natural sort of beauty that she brings to this character specifically. And so I'm curious, what's going through your heads when you're collaborating at this point, understanding that you've worked together on a few stories already. What is your process there?
Well, so Sarah and I, by the time we shot Parlor Palm, had collaborated on 4 films before. And I just really trust her as an actor. I trust her instincts. We had done some scripted work, but by the time Parlor Palm came around, we were really exploring improvisation over a script. So when we were working on Parlor Palm, along with Tyson Cody, our other actor, we were really like, it's a fascinating process, a little bit overwhelming, but I have my own lived experience that I carry within me. And then I have this story that I want to tell. And through some combination of sort of writing an outline and working over top that outline, and rehearsal, we rehearsed as if it was theater. We rehearsed intensely, much more than I normally do for films. Normally for films, you're not heavily invested in too many rehearsals because it's pretty straightforward what needs to happen. But with this story, Tyson and Sarah were very generous in giving their time, and they generated a lot of the dialogue themselves. So they were very active in bringing both of their characters to life, and I encouraged both of them to explore their character backgrounds themselves. I mean, I offered suggestions, but they sort of went off and crafted their own characters. So. Yeah, I mean, it's a really challenging experience to communicate to an actor. Mania and Psychosis. It's if you've never experienced it before, if you've never witnessed it, it's a really challenging sort of headspace to try and emulate. But like Sarah she's a standout actor, and she took on the role with great curiosity and great dedication. And yeah, that's what I would say about my collaboration with Sarah.
Well, I mean, it's working. Clearly, it's really great, and even Tyson, like their chemistry together was amazing, and it did kind of feel, in the best way, it did feel a little bit theatrical, in the sense that it's almost as if, this one room was the stage, we are the audience observing, and by the end, the moment that they leave the space, it almost feels like you can exhale, because everything has sort of happened. And I also liked upon watching it as well, it kind of did feel almost like they were in quarantine, like we have been for the last year. It sort of felt like they were doing these very sort of mundane tasks, coming in and out. And then, well, Tyson started going to work and she was at the house, but it felt very relatable in that way. Do you find that now? Because I assume, because you shot this before.
Right.
Yeah. So looking at it now, do you see the relevance now between the two?
Totally. And when we were first promoting the film last summer, we started talking about it publicly. That's one thing we pointed to. It's sort of serendipitous, or like this coincidence that our story does capture like a quarantine vibe. He's going to work, so he's leaving the house. But Sarah Swire's character, she's stuck inside. She's feeling quite claustrophobic. She's feeling a little bit lost in her career, and the claustrophobia of just staying in one space, I think, adds to her mental health crisis. I think staying in one room or in one apartment for too long, it does create problems. So that's really interesting you would note that, because our whole team had many conversations about this.
Huge response in that from me, at least in that sense, because even the opening montage, I was like, oh, this feels like repetitive in a great way, almost like the day in and day out they're living in this space. I wanted to point to your piece in the Globe and Mail, a police officer is not the best person to help someone in psychosis. I really enjoyed that piece, and more specifically, you talk about authoritative figures and their response to people in experiences of trauma. More specifically, though, psychotic episodes and such. And I really appreciated that piece that you wrote. And I guess I wanted to see if you could expand on that a little bit, and if that has any sort of impact on your writing process as well.
Sure. So last summer we had a few people in Toronto die because they were going through psychosis, and the authorities who met them at their doorstep were perhaps not the best sort of people to be attending to their crisis. So it really did shake me up last summer, just thinking about these questions, and having the lived experience of having gone through mania and psychosis. I am very curious and disturbed by a lot of these questions. And the piece Parlor Palm does not address in any way the violence that can be done against those who are suffering from mental health crises. It's a loving relationship that's captured in Parlor Palm, and her partner is very supportive. And from the red lights that are flashing in the living room, you can see that the ambulance has arrived, and presumably she's going to go to the hospital and she's going to be treated. And but I definitely have been working on new pieces of work that more directly address these questions of violence against the mentally ill. And it's a very complicated question. For me, there's so many layers to this question about how to treat those who are going through psychosis. It's not a simple question, but I think that we have not had proper public conversation about these issues. For the longest time, these were conversations that were held behind closed doors. Those who suffered from psychosis would not talk about their experience out of shame. And it's a priority of mine to bring these conversations to light and to share my experience and to contribute to the conversation in whatever way I can.
Mm-hmm. Well, listen, I'm here to reiterate that you're doing that quite well. It shows in your work. I mean, when you write from personal experience, that's where I find the most honest storytelling comes from, and it does feel very genuine and organic. So congratulations. And on a bit of a funny note, I noticed, so the house location is fantastic. I think it's a beautiful location, and it reappears in some of your films. It appeared in Ripe, and I believe Woman on the Block as well. Mm-hmm. I'd like to imagine a world in which this house coexists in each of these films, and it's almost like different people coming in and out of this house. Because I think, okay, you know, which of them comes first? But it's almost like these people, these different characters moving in and out of the house, right? So like the end of Right, you end in that Sarah's dance sequence, right? They agree maybe to, let's say, to separate and leave, move out of the house. Then a new couple comes in. Parlor Palm. Did you ever sort of think about that?
I have done a lot of thinking about
Yeah.
how to
In the
play out
cinematic universe.
in
Yeah.
more ways. It's the cinematic universe of that house. So that's my parents' house, and
Yeah.
I've basically shot almost all of my films there, and because I'm very emotionally attached to the space, and yeah, I think that's a really funny suggestion, and I think maybe there's something there. I'm shooting a new short in September, and it also takes place in that house.
Fantastic. Good. That's great. Yeah, I think it's it's an interesting sort of observation. But listen, this was awesome. I think we covered it. Really enjoyed the film, Rebeccah, and I'm really excited for more and more people to watch it. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.